Hello, hello, reality shapers. I am so excited to talk to you today. I'm going to be talking to you today about reminding you how powerful you are and reminding you of the ability that you have to create that you've already accessed in other times of your life, but that you just might have forgotten or you might not realize exactly what it is that you've done. So I want you to think of a time in your life that you've done something that seemed impossible. Maybe you chose a career. Maybe you made a move. Maybe you launched a business. Maybe you decided to go on a trip. Maybe you got a partner. Maybe you even just got money for something, for going to school, something that seemed completely impossible, implausible, that there's no way that you could do it. And then you did it. And I want you to just really connect to that time and remember who you were because we all have times in our life where we do this, where we are able to create extraordinary, impossible things. And we do it. We do the thing that people told us we couldn't do, whether it's a big thing or a small thing. We've all done it. And this is where I always start when I teach this stuff because people imagine this manifestation or whatever you want to call it as this idea of something that they're not tapped into. But the truth is, it's part of the way the world works in natural law. So it's something that we all have access to and have all tapped into at some point in our life. So it's way less about learning this thing that's so outside of yourself and way more about tapping back into what was it that you had connection to? What was it that you were connected to when you did these things? And so I'm going to start by telling you the story of me growing up. So I grew up in a small town called Terrace in northern BC. I was obviously different, or maybe it's not obvious, but I was very different than everyone I was around. I and my sisters were in dance, and I at first I didn't really wasn't even really interested in all, and then I used to watch their year-end show videos, and I watched this dance that my sisters were doing, and I got more and more transfixed and more interested in it, and I decided that I wanted to join dance, and I would kind of convince friends to join with me. I would always try to get one of my guy friends to join with me, and they would say, "Yeah, yeah, I do it." And then in the end, they wouldn't want to do it, which was fine because eventually I got up the courage and I just decided, I'm going to do this by myself. And it changed my life in so many ways because up until that point, I had always been the weirdo. I had always been different. I just didn't fit in anywhere. I was super spiritual and mystic, and I went to a Christian private school. I was gay and also went to a Christian private school. I liked, I don't even know what I liked when I was young, but I didn't like the things that little boys were supposed to like. And I lived in a very, very small town that was mostly, mills and really like kind of like heavy labor industries. And so I just did not really ever feel connected. I never really felt like I fit in. And when I found dance, it was like this whole new world to express myself, to be who I really was, and to really explore, artistry and energy and just self expression and all of these things. And within not a lot of time of having been a dancer, I decided that I was going to be a dancer. I was like, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And I remember announcing at the dinner table one day, I'm going to be a professional dancer. I've decided that's it. And I had only started dancing when I was, I think, 15 years old. So I was already way behind. And I remember my parents, although they initially were kind of like, we don't know about this, I have to give it to them, they were very supportive. And they always wanted us to just be happy and just be happy doing whatever we wanted to do. And so they were very supportive. But it was interesting because many of their friends would try to talk me out of it. I remember my mom was furious this one time after we had dinner with another dance family from our dance studio. And, we were sitting there and the mom, her name was Teresa, asked us kids what we wanted to do. And we were all like, well, we want to be dancers when we grow up. And this mother, who also was a dance mom, said, "Oh, but that's not a real career. Like, what are you going to do for a real career?" And my mom, I remember at the time, was so annoyed, although she didn't say anything. And we all were like, "Yes, this is what my kids are going to do, and this is what I also was hell bent, like, this is what I'm going to do." And I realized very quickly that it wasn't, it didn't matter what other people thought, and I didn't care. I didn't care to hear all the reasons I couldn't. I didn't care to hear all the reasons that it wasn't sensible or it wasn't realistic. I just was hell bent on this. And as quite a young adult, I remember my motto was, "No power on this earth will stop me. No power on this earth will stop me." And so at about 16 or 17 years old, I moved to Vancouver to dance. I got a scholarship to this ballet academy, and I went to school from about 8 o'clock in the morning until noon every day. And then I danced from 1 until 9 every night. And I just danced and danced and danced and danced. And I got all this training, and I worked with the best teachers. And I worked with the best teachers in BC. And then I had teachers fly in internationally, and I just got all the best training. And I graduated from high school and I became a professional dancer. I got a paid job pretty much right out of high school. And this was so beautiful and so exciting. And, it was funny because as we often hear in stories like this, so many people from that had tried to dissuade me and said, "You can't do that," suddenly looked at me and went, "You're so lucky. You're so lucky." And I was like, it's funny that I'm lucky now because I remember the time when you were telling me all of the reasons about why this wasn't a realistic choice and why you should go to school and all the things. And of course, they did the realistic choice, went to school and did all these things. And then I remember having friends that were envious and going, "You have this incredible life. And I wish that I had this life like you." And when I tell this story, people often relate it to different things, is that they go, "Oh, there was a time in my life I did something like that." And there's these common threads. One is that we're so determined. We're so determined that we don't even entertain the possibilities of what else could happen. Number two is that we do not listen to the reasons why we can't. We do not listen to the practical, to the reasons why, any kind of advice that would throw us off. We don't listen to that. We also tend to have this real ability to hold the unknown. We don't have anything to lose, so we just go after what we want. We just go after what we want. And this is amazing. And a lot of us feel, or at least have the experience, of not being able to live in that reality forever. And what I mean by that is, it's like, okay, we do the incredible thing, and then life kind of normalizes again. And then life kind of gets denser and heavier. And like, yes, we have the thing that we wanted before, but now we want this other thing. And that thing feels really far away. And we can't get there. We can't get there. We can't get there. Or we're trying to get there. But now there's all this density. Now we've got to like really, follow the rules and play by the book. And we're trying to get to this thing, but there's a lot of resistance. There's a lot of resistance. And we don't know why. And what happens is that a lot of us don't know how to continually navigate these different layers of density. And so we have kind of what I start to call game rules at every level of density that we're at. And wherever we are, you can imagine like you're on a circular track. Imagine you're on a circular track trying to run a race, but you're actually trying to get out of that race. But it doesn't matter how fast you go this way. It doesn't matter how fast you go that way. It doesn't matter who you negotiate with on this track. You're just still on this one track, this one loop. And this is what happens in life. And we end up playing at this one density. And there's solutions that will be offered at that density that are, let's call them game rules. And what ends up happening is that we learned a lot of mind-based game rules at that level of density as we try to get somewhere else. But what we don't realize, as we continue to learn things at that level of density, we're just learning all the rules from that layer of density. And it actually keeps us in that layer of density. And what this might look like, so I'll give you some practical examples. So in a relationship, let's say, we might come to a place in our relationship where we are not having great communication with our partner, where our relationship isn't feeling amazing, where we're having, some kind of like struggle and maybe some resentment building. Let's say we go to couples counseling and we learn all of these communication tools to communicate with this partner that's a little bit hostile and maybe a little bit resentful. We can do all the things and say all the things, and we can communicate with this person using these communication tools, the language of conflict resolution. But if that resentment doesn't clear, we're kind of just still experiencing resentment. And now we're just using these tools in a passive aggressive way. Has anyone ever had that experience where you're like doing the therapy tools, doing the counseling tools, but somehow they've just become a new vessel for the passive aggressivity that was always there, right? Now, sometimes we have a very different experience, and what might happen is that we go to couples counseling and we learn these communication tools, and we actually see we have this opening where we open ourselves to be seen, and we share a deeper truth with our partner, and they share a deeper truth with us, and we come into more of this shared reality, and there's more vulnerability, and some of that resentment that we were experiencing clears. And so then we're in this space where we're able to really communicate, and we're able to experience love again, and we're able to experience this deep connection with the person. But it's not really about the communication tools. It's about this feeling. We've cleared some of the density. We're at a different level. So yes, we learned these practical tools, but they're not really the thing. The thing is that density, that resistance, that resentment that we were experiencing with our partner has cleared. And now we're able to experience this kind of open-hearted love. And now it doesn't really matter how we communicate, because it's all good, because we're in this connection of love, right? But what a lot of us do is we just keep looking. So we learn the communication skills, and we're communicating with our partner, and we're just stuck in this one experience. We're just stuck at this level of density, and we try and we try and we try everything we can. We try everything we learn, and nothing works. And eventually we have to break up, and we're like, well, that partner was just bad. It was all them. They were the problem. I've just got to find someone good. Let me go again. Remember? On this one loop, on this one racetrack. So we just left that, but we're still on the same level of density without realizing it. We find another partner. They're so good in the beginning. They're amazing. They're like the best. And then 6 months in, or a year in, when that honeymoon phase wears off, we start having the same problems. And although they looked completely different, suddenly we have these same problems. We go, oh my goodness, here's another flawed person. I'm having this same resentment building in my relationship. Maybe we need to find a different therapist, and a different this and a different that. And then we try all the things, and the resentment doesn't clear, and we have the same experience. We have to break up, and then we go, okay, now I know the signs. Now I know the red flags. I know the signs for that person. It's someone whose social media looks like this. It's someone who carries themselves like this. It's someone that doesn't have a good relationship with their family. It's someone who. And so now we're on the lookout for those things, and we find someone who's the polar opposite of that. The polar opposite. And we're like, yes, they passed all my tests, all the things that I was looking for. They're not that. That's so good. I start a relationship. I get into it. I have the time. And then all of a sudden, 6 months or a year in, I have the same problems. And I realize that they're a carbon copy of my ex, just in a very different package. And we do this in so many aspects of our lives in different ways. And the truth is that it's not even just about them, it's about us, because we're the other half of that equation. We are energetically coded for that level of density and that experience. And so it doesn't matter how many practical real world solutions we try to find, we just keep recreating that experience, because that's what we're coded for. We often do the same thing in success or business, where maybe you have and I've seen so many people do this, is like they have a career, and they love it at first, and then they grow to resent it, and they go, oh, I don't feel valued, or I have this problem or that problem, or there's an income cap, whatever. And they go, and I'm going to find the thing. I'm going to find the thing that seems like the right thing. I'm going to change careers. And then you get into this whole new career. It's exciting and wonderful in the beginning. And then we kind of end up in this same place where we're having a very similar experience in this other career. And again, we're playing at this same level of density. And when we don't understand that, we'll hear all of these mind solutions, we'll hear all of these practical solutions, but it doesn't really matter what we do in the realm of logic and mind. We're just going to continue to operate at that level of density, and we're going to keep having different versions of the same experience again and again and again and again. And so why this matters in the context of this, beautiful process of conscious creation and manifestation is oftentimes this is what we do. We do the extraordinary thing, we do the incredible thing, we go after our dreams, and then we create it, and then we land on this new level of density, and then without realizing it, we stay there. And we just play the game on this one level of density, and we keep recreating the same thing. And a big part of the reason that why this happens is because once we've achieved something, it has a tendency to bring out blocks that were dormant, blocks or subconscious programs, or it can be even energy blocks. We had enough energy that we were able to direct into this thing. And now in this expanded state, there's something that we're running into where we're not able to focus our energy in the same way. A lot of the times this also engages fear, which really activates the limited mind. Okay, when we have fear and we're activating the limited mind wants to predict the future based on the past. The limited mind wants to use our past, our blueprint of the past, to create a map of the future. And that's a very, very limited map, because what that means is that you start to not believe that you can have anything that you don't already have massive evidence for. And the mind likes to do all kinds of fuckery. So actually, you start to believe that you can't even have things that you have had before. And so we get into this thing where we've been commandeered by a way in fear and doubt. And I want to say too, this might not even be conscious. We might not even feel like we're consciously experiencing fear and doubt, but there might be this subconscious thing running that's showing up in different ways. And so a lot of the times the power of our magnetism in manifestation and creation is our desire minus our doubt. And so when we did this first crazy thing and we had nothing to lose, we were all desire, we were all fire, we were all just like, let's go, YOLO, throw caution to the wind and go. And then suddenly now we've arrived at this new level. Now we feel like we have something to lose. It might be a little bit, but it's just enough for doubt and fear to engage that fear-based mind and to now be stuck in a predictable model of reality. And whatever you're experiencing internally in your energy, which your field is coded for, you're projecting. So you're experiencing false evidence or real evidence, doesn't matter, in the environment, but that is a match for that limitation. And so we get stuck in this thing and we start to look for the material. And remember, in our first example, when we did the crazy thing the first time, we weren't interested in the how. We weren't interested in what people had to say about why we could or why we couldn't. But what happens when that fear and doubt is activating the limited mind is we start to ask more questions. We start to ask more hows. We start to limit our what we imagine is possible based on all of these very limited parameters that just didn't exist there. They just didn't exist the first time that we did this. The first time that we did it, we were just like, nothing's going to stop me. And now we're looking for all these rules. We're looking for all these rules. And so this can be a frustrating thing. A lot of people will go, but what do I do? And so the beautiful piece of this is that you don't even have to find the solution. You don't even have to find the solution. All you have to do is learn how to shift your energy and shift your frequency. That's how you actually get out of that loop, out of that ring. You don't find a way out. You don't learn a skill. You don't get saved. You don't save someone. You don't become a superhero. You simply become not a match for that level of density and a match with something else. And the less dug in you are to a negative, a dense pattern, let's call it, the easier it is. But it's still easy once you realize what's happening. It's still easy. And the beautiful thing is, everything that you need to do and everything that you need to have and everything that you need to be will flow out of that. Just like it did that first time or those other times that you've created something extraordinary. You still did stuff. You still showed up. You still learned what you need to learn. You still built relationships. You still learned skills. You still took risks, you still did business, you still, whatever the thing was, you still did all the stuff. You didn't not do it. And that's this whole thing where we might think about manifesting, where it's like, oh, well, I'm just tuning my energy to it. No, all of the stuff that you do, it flows out of who you are. And you code yourself to it. So you call in the people who make sense. We just find each other. They light up and you light up and you come in resonance and you become a match and you just find yourself in the material world. It happens like that. And I'll give you an example because I can feel, you sometimes hear this stuff and then go, yeah, but there's this piece or there's that piece. But I'll give you the example of most people have the awareness that they feel better when their space is tidy, right? And I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and creatives. And so a lot of us are like, have such chaos brain that it's, keeping the space perfect is sometimes a little bit of a journey. We know that keeping our space a certain way helps us feel better, keeping our environment a certain way helps us feel better. And we can go into this mind thing of like, oh, I've got to clean my space and I've got to get it this certain way. And if I do it, then it'll feel better. And I should have done it sooner and I should have this. And that's a very heavy, very mind-based way. It's a very top-down way of getting something done. And then we clean our space, or we do whatever, we feel a bit better. And that's true. But there are also times where you just shift. Maybe something good happens in life. Maybe you get a weekend off. Maybe you get a long weekend. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you just wake up feeling great and you're just like, I'm going to clean this space today. And you just do it. And it's not heavy and you don't think about it. And it's not hard. And you kind of remember how much you enjoy cleaning, how much you enjoy doing the things, how much you enjoy doing. And you just do it. And you're like, it's done. And now I feel even better. But the thing is, you change the space to match your new vibration. And this is what we do. We shift our vibration, and it wasn't even about the cleaning. The cleaning just happened as a byproduct of the frequency that we shifted into. And this is exactly what happens with us in all things. So let's say we're in business. I see this a lot. And we're fighting this uphill battle, and no matter what we do, we can't get beyond this certain point. We can't get beyond this certain point. Remember, we're in this level of density. We're on the track. No matter which direction we go, how fast, how slow, we're just stuck on this same plane of reality, at the same level of density. But then when something might come along and we can shift our energy, we can shift our frequency, maybe we let go of a block, maybe we release something, maybe we let go of a subconscious program, maybe we conquer our fear, or maybe we just learn to tune to another frequency, another reality. We shift out of that and we shift into a new state of being, and suddenly there's a new idea. Suddenly there's a new idea, or suddenly there's a new opportunity, or suddenly we're just like, F it, I'm going to do this. And it turns out to be this extraordinary thing because you're on a new level of density. You're on a higher frequency. And the beautiful thing is that we go up. As we go up and up in frequency, we literally experience less density. We're literally, when particles vibrate faster, they have less mass to them. You can think of almost like water freezing and being dense and heavy like ice, to being a neutral temperature, to getting really hot and being like steam. Well, steam has a lot more ability to be molded and go places than ice, right? And so we're like that as well. As we vibrate higher, we get into a higher and higher and higher expression of self. And these things that we need to do to create the things, they just flow out of us. They just flow out of us effortlessly. And without having to do all this work or thinking about it. It's not that we don't work. A lot of people that are in this state of being do a tremendous amount of work, but it doesn't feel like work because it's not dense and heavy. When you created that extraordinary thing that you did whatever amount of work made sense for that because you were in the no matter what frequency. And so many of our problems that we experience are problems, especially those that repeat, are frequency problems. They're energy problems. When we shift the energy, the problem goes away because we level up. And I do want to say, because just to make this a full circle conversation, as we talk about this, one of the things is that we have to be able to navigate contrast. And what I mean by contrast is conflict or things that we don't want to happen that come into our experience. It is essential that we learn how to navigate that in different ways as those things come into our experience. And this is actually a big part of how we shift our frequency, is that if we can approach some of these repeating patterns that I'm talking about in a new way, from a new state of being and from a new perspective and really from a new frequency, then we become, I don't even want to say pattern breaker, because when we think about that, we kind of think about a force, and it's not a force thing, it's a frequency thing. So it's like we're just able to step out of that loop. We're just able to step out of that track. But we a lot of the conflict and the hardship that comes into our life is the actual key for us to level up. And so it's not about just avoiding these things, it's learning how to navigate them in a completely new way. And this is something that I work on a lot inside my spaces. We work on this really deeply inside Lux. And then I also give kind of a blueprint to dealing with this inside the Essence. We've actually been dealing with talking about how we navigate this in relationships right now. But my point is, sometimes when we hear this idea and we understand that we can shift our frequency or energy, and we understand manifestation, we just want it to come, and our desire becomes that we want it to come and we want to have this experience of life where there's no problems. But that's not how we learn, and that's not how we grow in this reality. It's the very problems, it's the very contrast that comes into our life, that comes into our experience, that gives us the opportunities to become the next version of ourselves, to grow into the higher frequency expression of ourselves, to unlock more of our gifts, more of our authentic expression, more of our kind of up spiraling. I think of it as like open-hearted love, open-hearted communication, and just all of the skills that we need to shift to that next level of frequency. So if our desire is to have this perfect reality where there's no contrast and no conflict, that actually violates a universal law. And so that's another reason that things don't come the way that we want, is because you can't violate the universal laws. That's the universal laws are the universal laws, and they're everywhere. Everywhere. This has been something on this journey that's been so, amazing for me, as it was there's a very analytical side of me to just, this is something I started noticing from the beginning. It was like everybody's saying the same thing. I recently read Think and Grow Rich, which is one of like the books about this kind of stuff, right? And I hadn't, people were like, that's like the book. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll read it. And so I downloaded the audiobook and I started listening to it. And I thought, I know all of this stuff. It was great, and it was reinforcing, and it was said in a different way, which I really enjoyed, and it had some really incredible stories. But it's just the same stuff. It's just the universal laws again in a different package. The universal laws are the universal laws. They don't change. We just have to learn how to access them in our lives so that we can get off the racetrack, the level of density that we're stuck on, and we can keep going up and going up and going up and spiraling up and doing these incredible things with what seems like to a lot of people no resistance. And so first of all, I just want to invite you into this awareness. If you've been stuck in a loop, if you've been repeating the same cycles and feeling like there's like blame or shame, or like we internalize it a lot of the times, if we have there's so many core wounds. Like if we have a I'm defective core wound or an I'm bad core wound, then we tend to internalize that and make it all about ourselves. It's not your fault. It is not your fault. But once you have the understanding, it is your responsibility. And one of the most powerful things to make your responsibility is your energy. When you make your energy your responsibility, you will have the power to recreate your life in ways that you can barely imagine. And so I'm running a free masterclass this week called The Miracle Mile. It starts tomorrow, actually tomorrow at noon PST. It's 2 days. And it is going to be all about these tools and how we can shift our frequency and how we can more deeply recognize these places of density in our life where we're caught in these loops, and how we can very quickly and very effectively understand more about these universal laws, and more about how we can navigate the contrast in our life in a way that elevates our frequency and shifts us out of that level of density, so we can keep leveling up and we can keep leveling up. And that version of you that created extraordinary things in your life in the past, that you can be that version of yourself all the time. That you can be that version of yourself all the time. And I remember there's times in my life I've tapped into this so deeply, and there's times of it that I've gotten a little bit deactivated. But all of that has been beautiful because it's helped me learn these laws more deeply. But I remember the last time I was so deeply in this kind of activation, I remember crying one time. It sounds silly to say now, but it's the truth. I remember crying one time and feeling almost scared because I was like, I don't even feel like reality is real. because at that point I was just so in alignment. I was utilizing all of these laws, and some of them without even realizing it. And I would just think stuff and it would happen. I would just think stuff and it would happen. I'd be like, I want to do this. And it would just come in. Some person would be like, hey, do you want to do this thing? Or I'd think I want to do this. And it still happens. I have some incredible stories that I'm going to share with you in the masterclass. But I would love for you to join me. It's free. There will be replays available. And yes, so the Miracle Mile. Oh yes, I was talking about what's in it. And there's going to be a clearing. We're really going to focus on the energy piece. So it's going to be understanding and lessons. And there's going to be a big energy clearing. And there's going to be a big activation on the next day. When I say big, I mean really powerful. I've really been working on my own spiritual gifts, and I've unlocked a lot of stuff recently, and it is freaking amazing. There has never been a better time to be in my world. The couple of clients that I've seen one-on-one on the last week have been like, you've always been amazing, but whatever's happening now, it is like rocket fuel. So I'm going to be bringing all of that this week in the Miracle Mile Masterclass. It's free Monday and Tuesday at noon PST. You can check the link in my bio, or you can send me a message and I'll send it back to you. And there will be replays sent out. So thank you for joining me for this chat today. And finally, I just want you to notice the thing that you're creating. How far away is it? How far away does the thing that you're creating feel? Does it feel like energetically, does it feel so far off in the distance? Does it feel close? Does it feel like right here, but like not quite? Where does that feel to you? And then I want you to contemplate the question. And I want you to let this be an abstract question. Try to get out of mind and just let this be the kind of thing where you just postulate this question and just see what comes up. See what comes up. What's in the way of it being right here? What's in the way of it being right here? And then ask yourself, is that the truth? Is that the truth? And question that truth. Because the truth is, things can happen in completely unrealistic, impossible timelines. But they don't happen when we don't believe that they can. So question, why is that thing that you're creating or that you're working on, why is it not right here? Why is it not right here? Why is it not right here right now? What's in the way? And is that story about what's in the way even true? And let me know what your biggest takeaway was. It's really valuable. I love hearing your feedback. I love hearing your wins. It also helps you cement it in when you write it out. And it also helps the algorithm, because I've realized that when I forget to ask you to comment, a lot of the times my video doesn't get pushed out, and some of these videos are amazing. And I really want to help as many people as I can. There's so much power that we have to be the creators of our own reality when we just remember how powerful we are. So I thank you so much for being here. Thank you for helping me get my message out. I hope this was really beautiful and really valuable. Thank you guys for being here today. I am sending you so much love, and bye for now.